Young Pa.
Welcome back to episode 3 of Poppa's Corner with Lito. And we're going to jump straight into it. So, this episode is about being present, right? And this one hit home a little bit more this weekend because I'm just pissed. So, it's my son's birthday. And this weekend, we decided to take him to catch Air Paramus in New Jersey. Really dope place if you want to take your children. And as I'm there, I'm seeing a lot of parents like on their phones, right? Like not paying attention to their children. We're talking about children that are like 6 months and crawling. We're talking about children that are 1 years old, just learning how to walk. We got 6-year-olds running around. I just see parents just being super like negligent and distant. And this one moment truly pissed me off because I see this little girl sprinting. And she's like, in her own little world having a blast, looking for her father's attention. The dad is on his phone. I don't know what he's looking at. I don't even care what he's looking at, right? It's just the fact that she's looking for your attention and looking to have fun with you and smiling at you. And after a while, she's not paying attention. So she hits the dip, right? Hits the feet. And little girl start fast, super fast. Next, you know, a few minutes later, I see the same father who uses the bathroom and everything, comes out. Then he starts looking for his daughter. A couple minutes later, panic. Oh God, where's my daughter? Where's my daughter? And I'm just like, think about how distracted you have to be to lose your child in a play space that's not that big, right? How distracted you have to be for your child to leave your peripheral in general, and you not even bat an eye. I truly think that's an issue, right? Because one, safety, right? Like nowadays, you just never know who's around. You don't know like the safety measures a space might have. What if there's a family coming in, your child goes through the exit, the people like, hey, whose child is that? I'm not chasing after anybody. And so you know your child is in the parking lot looking for you when you're inside on your phone all the time. Right? Like that just doesn't look right. It doesn't sound right. Right. So when we think about being present, we really have to start pushing ourselves to like think of the idea that it's not just being next to someone. It's just not being in a space, right? Being present means being in that space and in the moment with the people, right? Sometimes we will say, oh, well, I'm here. That's not the same. You can be there, be quiet, and like be a non-productive person in the space. At the end of the day, it's better, like, and sometimes it's better than you not even being in the space at all. So imagine how your child might feel when they want to go out and you say, "Oh, hey, let's have fun," but you're not even paying attention to. Now they have to find out that fun by themselves, and they see other little kids having fun with their parents. That's just not fair, right? Because you can't put your phone down or you're distracted by something else, right? Being present means being there, right? Like being able to like really visualize what's like in front of you, what you can do next, and how you can contribute, right? Because not only are you like making the situation difficult for yourself in terms of like this gentleman's situation where he had to run around looking for his child, right? You now have to start thinking about how you impact the child in the sense of how they feel. Your child not feel, hey, it doesn't matter. My parents don't pay attention to me. That's the real thing, especially that this child looked like she was about 5 or 6, right? That's when you start having like your own little thoughts of like who you are as a person, although you're like, nowhere near as like developed in that sense. But it's like it's a thought that starts. And there's things that we have to really think about in saying like, oh, is that worth it? Because it kind of goes back to what something that I've been the past episodes in the sense that like we question, will this child really remember because they're just a baby or they're young? Yes, yes, they do, because it's gonna become one of those things where they're gonna be happy to go places, but you're no longer included in the fun. You're no longer just the person that they go to and say like, hey, can you come with me to the trampoline? It's more of like, can you take me here? Once you get there, they're not even gonna talk to you, right? They're gonna go to their own space. And then there's gonna be a day when you're not distracted and you're gonna be like, hey, why is my child not including me? Right. Now you're like noticing that your relationship is a bit severed. And you might be like, oh, but that's extreme. In reality, it's not. Like sometimes think back to a moment where you were outside and one of your parents was like super just negative towards you. And originally, even though they were negative, you would like try and have a full blown conversation, hold their hand, try and smile, try and make jokes. Now think about a year or two later where you were still outside and those like consistent habits were happening. Were you still having that conversation with them? Or were you a bit more quiet than usual because you just didn't want to get that? Or because you didn't feel like your feelings were being seen or met, right? Or your ideas were being seen or met. Exactly. I'm sure you've experienced that to at least a certain extent. And that's something that we have to think about what it means to be present for our children. And that's just even outside of like that play area, right? In the story. Something I think about is I live by this quote and it's being a man of my word, right? Or like to say, or this idea. And the reason I say that is because I want people to trust me, right? Like if I fuck up, I gotta own up to it. And I know there's something to fix. I gotta name it, but I actually gotta take action. I can't just say something I have to fix. Because at the end of the day, like all you're doing is building hope for what? Nothing, right? So when you think about being present, you have to think about the overall impact that you're gonna have because a physical body is not enough, right? When you think about what it means to be present, I can think about a lot of I work in a school, right? So I see like a lot of different parental situations. I have students that have two separate households, but both of their parents show up to family meetings. Both of their parents show up to parent teacher conference. Both of their parents show up to their sporting events. What does that do? It builds strong relationships. You don't like, there's moments now that I think is beautiful because I remember back in my day where it's like, oh, I didn't grow up with a dad. I didn't grow up with a mom. I grew up with my grandparents. Right. And like sometimes that's heartbreaking, but nowadays it's also beautiful to see like, oh yeah, I fuck with both my mom and my dad. You know, they're great people. They both love me equally, even if they have like a step parent, right? And that's just something that like they can build off of because then they will also know the impact of like how communication and being them their best self and being present can like lead to positive relationships even when people are not together. Because at the end of the day, that kind of goes back to the modeling piece that we've spoken about before, right? Because at the end of the day, children tend to do what they see and what they know, right? And that starts with us. So, like, if we are meant to be present, we have to be a person of our word because they have to trust what we say. It's hard, as Ghost said in Power, right? So now let's think about this a little bit further, right? Carlos, why do you think this is important? Well, we're currently in a generation that tech heavy. It's also very diverse in the sense of how many people have access to the young people, right? And if they have a base at home, you're building something that's very important for them in terms of like a core, which is self-esteem. And with you being present, meaning like you're having that positive language when you're around your child, you actively being a participant in making them feel better about themselves, may not be through words and action, right? You're giving them like a force field to feel not untouchable, but safe in their skin no matter what is said or done to them. Because nowadays we have to combat different things. Back in the day, we didn't have to combat technology as much, right? Before it was just like more he say, she say. Now you have people who want to be on TikTok. Now you have people who want to be on different platforms of social media. And there's a lot of people that are not so nice, right? Who might be insecure. Your child might be impacted by that. But in you being present and giving them the words of affirmation, showing them what love is, showing them that their ideas matter and that they actually have leverage in this world would essentially put them in a position where they know their value, right? Because if we put the other end of the spectrum and you kind of go with the I think this shows up in movies often. You know when there's parts in movies where like the child is tugging at the parent's face, "Oh, mommy, daddy, look, 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 look," and you don't look, and then just the child's whole emotion and mood changes, right? That right there is the beginning, right? Of like just their like level of self-esteem kind of dwindling because if it starts with you not caring, how do you think they're gonna feel about somebody else hearing about what they think and what they say? Right. So that's why we see a lot of people not live up to potential. Because there's moments where like they start to second guess every single thing that they do because if the people that mean everything to them have not made this have not made an investment to truly care or listen to what they say or be there for their person, how can they expect that from anybody else? And the worst part is they're not even gonna give anybody a chance. Like, think about that. It's one of those things where people are gonna automatically be negative because they're gonna be like, well, I don't think I should do that because growing up it just didn't really work out and nobody really supported me before, so I don't think they're gonna support me now. And then it just becomes a trickle down effect for everything. You just opened up Pandora's box of like sadness, of limited potential, hidden dreams, and honestly, like a bag of possible mental health disparity, right? And that's just not fair because you couldn't put a pause on something that might have not been an emergency for treating them how you would probably treat it, thinking it's okay, right? We all have to parent how we want our child to like be raised and not take any shortcuts and not be like, well, I deserve it this time because I had a stressful day. Parenting is no days off. As stressful as it might be, you might be overstimulated. At the end of the day, you gotta show up right and like give them the opportunity to truly feel like they're being seen and supported, right? Your presence truly goes a long way because they will always be able to say, I have that person. But if they don't have that person, especially when they're further along in the situation in life, they won't feel like they have anybody. Then that wall gets built and they feel like they have trust issues. It's your fault. You can't blame anybody else. That's your fault. Although you might blame other people in other situations because they might play like a minuscule part in it, but at the end of the day, it starts with you. Okay. And something that like I think about often is why do we have to think about presence that way? Because when I think about when I think back, right? So like a lot of the trauma that I've tried to combat, it comes back to positive memories or lack thereof, right? I always remember a lot of the hardships and it molded me into like a lot of, it molded a lot of like my great attributes, but it also molded some ugly ones like excessive pride where I didn't want any help, which probably impacted what impacted me in college and why I didn't do so well as I should have there. It probably impacted me in some ways out of high school. It most likely impacted me in relationships and the way I treated people and the way I spoke to people. It also led to me limiting myself, right, in terms of healing because I didn't believe in it. I didn't want to believe it because that means I had to dissect myself and really pinpoint the fact that I never cared to think about the core memories that I had that were positive because I felt like the negative was just enough to make me stronger. But in reality, that was just me essentially gaslighting myself to think that everything is okay because of the things that I lacked. Right. And that's not, it's like I was in a toxic relationship with myself. And sometimes we have to look in the mirror about that because that then also leads to a lot of like triggers, right? me being able to have conversations with my dad on what he did and didn't do allowed me to truly improve on how I speak to folks, how I understand people, because I had to sit down with a dude that was 50 years old and say like, yo, why did you do what you did? And accept it. And the reason I accepted is because when I was in therapy and I was dealing with like this depression, it showed me that through forgiving him, I learned that he didn't know what he was doing. He had a third grade education. He had parents that came from France. My grandma had parents that came from St. Thomas. And it's like all those moving pieces, they never got to really be stable, right? Like when you're an indentured servant, you don't really have the opportunity to like raise your kid. Now, my grandma doesn't know how to raise a kid. She brings them to the Dominican Republic, right? Or she comes to the Dominican Republic, has a kid in the Dominican Republic. Now she's basically starting from scratch. And that showed with my father, right? And that's like him being able to share that also helped him, right? Because although my grandma might have not been an amazing mother to him, may she rest in peace, she did the best that she can and she was present. And her presence made a difference for him because that became his person, right? So much so they named my sister after her, right? And my second oldest sister is almost an iteration of her name. So like her impact is there, right? And when she passed, my dad said, "Oh, I lost my person," right? My father doesn't talk about his dad. I'm sure my grandfather was a great guy. Never got to meet him, but it just goes to show the impact that my grandma had on my father because of the fact that when he was younger, she was right. When he left school at an early age, she was like, "Okay, you're gonna work. I'm gonna support you in that space." Right? You need a father figure. Okay, I'm gonna bring someone into your life that, like, I know can put you in a better space. And that's what happened. If I'm not mistaken, my grandma's probably one of the reasons why my dad became a chef, like for a cruise line, right? And like those are the things that we think about. Like it's all moving pieces. Right? It's all different pieces of the puzzle. And in this case, the puzzle of life has like too many pieces, and there might be one under the couch, there might be one out of the outside, like on your balcony because it blew out the window randomly, right? There's just different things that might be missing for some time, but we're gonna be able to piece it together. There's just certain things that we have to do, right? And that's gonna come with though this big piece right here, and that's adjusting to changing needs. And I say that because everything is a generation aspect. My love, right, didn't have as much of a hard time raising us in the sense of like the things she needed to do because back in the day things were easier in terms of like workspace, flex. Right? She used to work at a restaurant and 142nd. Then my dad's cousin used to take care of us right there in the building next door to the restaurant. Right. Then when she ended up working at a factory, it was a factory full of immigrants where they just made gold and jewelry. The security guards were cool with her, so they used to allow her to bring me and my sister. We used to eat McDonald's and eat and like watch the old VHS tapes on the McDonald's characters on a little 9-inch box TV, right? But she was able to do that. Nowadays, you have to start thinking about like the evolution of like caretaking, right? The evolution of kids' needs in general, socially, emotionally, because back in the day, we didn't have distractions, right? We didn't have tech. The toys were different. The way people viewed kids were different. The way communities were built were different, right? Like before, I would say things used to be a bit more united. Now it's more of like who can be the best parent and who needs the most resources. So nowadays, all you want to do is be the best parent possible, but while also like being able to provide. And now it's a little bit harder because like jobs are harder to come by, jobs are not paying, right? And something that we need to be mindful of is like that. At least we're trying, right? And then when we start adapting to like changing needs, and we also have to be mindful that back in the day, our parents probably didn't try to like truly check what we needed as much. Right? Me and my sister, our first language was Spanish. You think we were ELO learners? Not really. We learned English the way we did, through our friends and through our teachers in kindergarten. It wasn't necessarily a program, right? My boy, Freaky Todd, he ended up putting me on to Tupac, and literally we just was in the same kindergarten class. He lived on the fifth floor. I lived on the sixth floor. I come down to his crib and his parents were just cool with it. Bro, I didn't understand shit they would say. But that's you know, me and him became friends all throughout high school, right? From literally kindergarten throughout high school. So it's one of those things where like language barrier doesn't necessarily mean anything, but you need a community to like be at least be able to help you, right? As parents, you also need to do the same. Because before it was like, yo, just let it rock, you get through it, and you'll be resilient just as I was when I used to uh walk barefoot through rivers and then climb a freaking 100-foot mountain and go through the Himalayas to go to school. Right. And that's something that like we have to think about, because when we think about mental health and like the way people feel, we tend to like downplay it, but we don't understand the stress reduction and the lack of anxiety that comes from actually having stability, right? We don't think about how those hardships all add up and truly put you in the face sometimes, and you're in a spot where you can't even get up, where you're feeling a pain that like you've never experienced before, where you're questioning your own thoughts, right? And if we can think of that as stress adults, imagine the mind of a young child that's just full of creativity, hyperactivity, and just energy to learn. And now in a space where they could see things, they could hear different things. Yo, bro, you was not gonna put you don't have YouTube on a waffle. You're not gonna put uh like Minecraft under slash cool video under slash MP3. Like that's not a thing. That wasn't a big for us. Now you can watch everything and anything. You don't know what they're gonna see. You don't know what they're gonna hear. But if you are present as a parent, you're gonna give them the forefront to truly push forward and like get a grasp of their own situation. Right? There's people that can watch things and be like, I'm not phased by this. This is pure entertainment. But there's some people that soak it in because they have nothing else. So when you say, oh, they like this show, I don't know why. Probably because that's the only thing you do. Give them their tablet, give them their like laptop. Some kids might have a Mac at this age, just type crazy. So they go watch something, so you can do what you gotta do. Like we can't keep being that parent. Like look fun what bro. You can't keep being that period where like a child is crying, and you go like this, and then you be like, "Oh, here's a toy." Then you go back to your thing. That's the problem, bro. Because the next thing you know, slap that toy. You're gonna go do something else. You ain't gonna do it because you're so focused on what you need to do, or what you want to do. I should say. You might be on TikTok. You're like, oh wait, they're gonna go to sleep eventually. I promise. They might put up a little fight, but they're gonna go to sleep. Right. Or like, yo, just bring them with you. Let your child laugh with you for a little bit. Them be in your space. I'm not saying as long as you have to do it all the time, but let the child be in your space. Let them laugh with you. Let them enjoy life with you, because at the end of the day, that's where that warmth and that love is gonna come. That's when they're gonna be able to share things with you. That's when they're gonna be able to like say like, "Mommy, Daddy, can they watch video with you?" And then it turns into a thing where you might end up having an algorithm that's like half lit, half baby, and that's perfectly fine. Because at the end of the day, you building a bond with your child. And then it's never in the sense of like trust is never going to falter because you've given them that comfort. And then you can also regulate it whenever you need to. And there'll be a lot more understanding because you're not ignoring them and they know that. Children know when they're being ignored, I promise you. All right. This episode is honestly gonna be short and sweet. I just had to get this off my chest because I was pissed. Miz was focused on the wrong thing. Next thing you know, the little girl was so fast, she probably gonna be in the Olympics in like another isn't 4 year increments. Let's say another 12 years. She probably out here gonna be breaking records and you focus on the wrong shit. You need to be putting her in like baby fitness classes, which she do is I think called strong baby or build baby, whatever. But like, bro, like take her to practice where she could be doing things like that. Then maybe, on the parent side, like take your phone out. But be involved, man. Because at the end of the day, like they're little, but for so long. Because next thing you know, they're gonna turn into with the what you doing? Nothing. Huh? Nothing. Can you come with Daddy? No, I don't want to. Right. But when you have that like connection, they'll put the phone to the side. Oh, and they'll keep the phone, but they'll still be with you. You won't get as much attitude. You'll get a lot more understanding. They won't be scared to communicate with you. They're actually going to trust you with their ideas and their thoughts and their wants and their needs. But it starts with you. Like, listen, this is a world full of distraction, busy schedule, right? But this is going to require intentional effort. You have to think to yourself, I don't like to be a hypocrite. And this episode hit home for me because when Landon was first born, there were moments where like I felt like overwhelmed. I distracted myself in that stuff. And this is why it's important. Like, yo, just take it, right? Get a by yeah. Put it to the side. And I'm a workaholic, so I know that sometimes putting work to the side is tough because I always have like this thing in my head where like I never want to falter there because what puts the food on the table? We have to remember, and I drove this home multiple times in the first episode, is that parenting is a long-term journey, right? It's a long-term commitment, similar to like co-parenting. And that at the end of the day, you have to think about the benefits, right? How the good outweighs the bad, right? And how ultimately it impacts the child's development. And what we need to think about is just you building deep and meaningful connections. What's like the positive attribute that you're gonna truly build for your child as they continue to grow, right? Think about the ways in which you just built them up and lifted them up to be a better person, right? But also have that relationship with you, your possible sibling, their cousins, and the people around them, right? Because if they could trust you and you are present, they know how to be around others. They know how to feel around others. And then have that sense of self-worth. You have that self-esteem. And as the world and as our children keep changing, we have to be mindful of that and be open to the fact that there are certain sacrifices that we have to make, but that's part of the parenting journey. But as we go through this together, like I want you to know that like it's okay to fuck up. I just bounce back. So thank you for joining me for episode 3. Let's continue to rock out.